G'day. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's finding the time to reconnect with nature. Thanks for joining us on this one. This is really excited for this one because I don't know how it's going to go. This is my first ever hammock camping trip, so that's going to be super interesting. I've spent the last couple days trying to learn all there is to know about hammocks, and there's quite a bit actually. So that's going to be pretty cool. And I've had to pick a walk that was accessible via public transport. So I've had to find a spot which normally I wouldn't do, and it's been really good so far. It's been really pretty. A couple hours on the train and buses and stuff not so good, but this spot itself absolutely stunning. So really looking forward to it. I've done some bits and pieces in this area, but not this first section. And here we're going to explore a bit and see if we can find a spot to set up camp and just relax and enjoy. So it's going to be a good trip. How cool is this place? It is so nice when you stumble across somewhere that you just didn't quite realize was there, and it turns out to be way nicer than what you thought. So yeah, really enjoying this walk so far. It's really pretty. What a beautiful lunch spot. Yeah, so far so good. What an amazing walk. It's just, it's given up the goods. It's been really good so far. Absolutely stunning. So this we're going to smash lunch and keep tracking along. So nearly in some familiar territory. I'm going to explore a little side creek that leads onto this one, and then I'm going to bust up the hill and hopefully find a spot to set up the hammock, so up on the ridge top. So see how we go. So I've walked past this creek a couple times and just always wondered what's up there. So I'm going to have a quick sticky peek. It's been pretty hard going so far and very scrambly and very bush bashy, and so I'll just plod along a little bit further, maybe out past this jumble of boulders here, and then after that pick up some water, and we're going to head up on top of the ridge line, and that's where we'll look for camp, I think, and hopefully find somewhere nice up there. So I was just thinking that, this creek had just enough to keep me interested, and you just keep plodding along that little bit further. And then I just saw like the biggest freshwater like crayfish or marron or whatever they are, like down here, I think I've ever seen. The thing was like lobster size. Made me jump, thought it was going to come out and tear my arm off. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, you always just want to keep going that little bit further. You know, I'm mindful that it's not what I'm here for this trip, so push on a little bit more and then backtrack. But it's really pretty in here. You know, it's nice to be feeling we're away from, you know, the main trails and stuff now too, so it's good to explore. Alrighty, so we took a shortcut / hard cut up the side of the spur from the creek. Heavy pack because we're, you know, carrying extra water. We'll camp on top of the escarpment tonight, so no water till about lunchtime tomorrow. But yeah, I reckon we're like 2/3 of the way up, and then, you know, once we're at the top, I'm gonna start looking for somewhere picturesque to try and set up a hammock. So yeah, and that'll be interesting to see how that goes. It's one of the main reasons that I picked this trip was, yeah, it's an experiment. So we'll see what happens. Now all we do is gotta find a campsite with a view like this, and it's gonna cap off a pretty good day. So yeah, nearly there. Yeah, we've had a bit of a scramble and stuff up here, but it's pretty close now, so good. Oh, your camouflage is really good if you don't move. Anyway, it's a legless lizard. That's kind of cool. Somewhere in there. Where's Wally? Alrighty, so hammock's all set up, and you know, we're in a nice spot. But interestingly enough, I had to end up at a well-established spot because it's you know, it's really tricky to find, you know, suitable trees with no vegetation in between them. So even though in theory you can set a hammock up, you know, where there's uneven ground, all that type of stuff, you know, in the Australian bush it can be tricky to find trees without undergrowth blocking the path beneath them. So that was a bit challenging, and, you know, I had to bypass quite a few spots that I would have liked to camp, knowing that if I got to this spot where it's a bit more impacted by people, and it is, you know, a campsite that gets used quite a bit, I think, you know, it took me to come here to actually find some nice open scenery and some nice gaps between the trees to actually make all this work. So yeah, so I've set up the tarp as well. I may fold that back during the night or before I go to bed, but I've got a quilt that I can rig up as an under quilt, so I'm probably going to set that up. You know, with hammocks there's lots of little technical and specific kind of bits of gear, I think, for hammock camping, so it's a bit of a learning curve to work out all this stuff. So I'll rig up a quilt underneath it, and that's going to keep me warm from cold air coming up from, you know, the air underneath me, and then I've got a lightweight sleeping bag, and, you know, I think I should be pretty toasty in that. But yeah, it's definitely a few tricks of the trade, I think, for hammock stuff. So yeah, so I'm going to get all that set up, and then I'm just going to relax and you know, some cheese and crackers and a whiskey, and just enjoy the sunset, I think. So hopefully we get a nice one. Alright, so I've just folded the tarp back so we can have a better look at what this kind of looks like. So, you know, I'm using like an all-in-one sort of camping camping hammock, so you know it's got a bug net and stuff. It's all built in. You know, it comes with a fly that you can throw over the top of it as well. So it's actually pretty straightforward to set up once you actually find a suitable site. And then, you know, as mentioned before, with hammocks you get cold from underneath them, so you've either got to try and put an insulated sleeping mat in there, or like a thing called an underquilt. So, which I don't own, because I don't own everything, although I try to. And so I'm actually just kind of, you know, I've got a quilt, you know, that is just a rectangular thing, so it'll actually work for this type of purpose. So I've just kind of, you know, I mean, I've got it pegged in here with a stick, and you know, it's just clipped on, and but it's actually doing its job. And as soon as you climb in there, you actually feel pretty toasty. You can feel it straight away. So so that's pretty good. I'll probably leave the tarp roll back for a while, and then I'll probably close it over maybe tonight. I'll see what the weather's doing and whatnot. But yeah, it's really curious to see how this goes. Like, you know, with hammocks, like you know, I think there's always that fear you're going to end up like a banana. But I think the key is that you've got to sleep on an angle in a hammock. So even though you want to sleep straight, you've got to sleep on an angle kind of off axis to how the hammock hangs. And when you do that, you actually feel quite flat. So this would be my first night ever in a hammock. So really kind of curious to see how this goes. And it was just kind of a last minute thing. I was like, well, you know, what am I going to do? I've got 2 days and I want to do something a little bit different. So here we are. So really keen to see how this turns out, and see what type of night I have. You know, if I'm grumpy in the morning, you'll know it wasn't a good one. But we'll see. It should be cool. Like, it's interesting to learn new things and keep experimenting with different gear and whatnot. So, you know, I've been trying to learn a lot about hammocks over the last 2 days prior to this trip, and you know, there's things like, you know, there's drip lines and stuff like that, so water doesn't run into your hammock down the actual you know, the hanging ropes and stuff like that. There's weird things about working out getting it to hang at the right angle. There's all sorts of stuff going on, but yeah, so it'd be cool to see how it all pans out. So today actually turned out to be a pretty good day. Yeah, I didn't quite know how today was going to go. So the area I walked through wasn't familiar with, and it's actually a lot nicer than I expected it to be. You know, and especially for a walk that you can get to via public transport. So it's really nice. It's really itching to get out. Just feels like so long since I've done a solo trip, and I feel they're like so important to my well-being. So this has actually been pretty cool. So, you know, I'm not going to light a fire or anything, because I don't like lighting a fire away from a water source. So yeah, pretty much. Whoop. Happy New Year! Oh, dinner's ready. Yeah, I don't like lighting fire away from a water source, because, you know, the last thing I want to do is be responsible for starting a fire somewhere, and, you know, not something I want on my conscience. And you generally don't. I don't cook on one, so I really don't need one. So in winter, close to a water source, I'll light one and I'll really enjoy it. But maybe not today. So I'm just gonna have dinner, and then I'm actually gonna probably just get ready for bed. So and that's gonna be a little bit tricky. Obviously, there's the sleeping in the hammock, so we've got to organise for that. But It's also the whole, what do you do with your gear, things you would normally have in the tent with you. So I need to think about, what I want. There's a couple little pockets inside of the hammock which I'll probably utilize for a few little things, but yeah, so I think I'm just going to get that organized and then probably just jump into bed. I've got the tarp back, so I'm just going to lay back and look at the stars and try and sleep and see how that goes. Like, yeah, should be an interesting night, I guess. Oh, cooked breakfast does it again. So good. I don't quite like this spoon thing I'm trying though. Trying these things from Cedar Summit, and they're supposed to clip together, which can give you a long spoon, and they do, but they just constantly unclip themselves, so it doesn't quite work as you would like it to be. So I may actually go back to my other long spoon, but yeah, it's nice to experiment with different things. I couldn't even say what this tastes like. It's kind of like egg mashed potatoes, or I don't know. It's interesting. It's just warm and hearty, and yeah, it just hits the spot. Well, it's definitely not a cooking channel. Yeah, so alright, I'm going to stop this and have dinner and then get to bed, and we'll check in the morning, see how everything went. Well, good morning. Yeah, had a pretty good night last night. I think I think the hammock was surprisingly comfortable. I think it felt like a bit of a long night, but that was also just because I went to bed about 6:30. So, so by midnight I'd nearly had 6 hours sleep, which is when I think I started to wake up. I had Bruce, the brush-tailed possum, trying to get into my gear, get some food, but so obviously, he's been successful in getting food from other people, so hence he thought he'd try mine. But mine's in a sealed bag, inside my pack, and then my whole pack was actually in a giant dry bag as well, so it was as well protected as I could make it. So but yeah, after a couple sniffs around and stuff, he left it alone. But yeah, it was pretty good. I slept with the tarp off, so that was actually quite nice. The weather was pretty good, and it was no condensation or no dew or anything like that, so everything's just bone dry, so that's actually pretty cool. It means I don't have to wait to pack anything up because everything's dry. As far as the setup goes, temperature wise, I was warm enough, but I think the quilt I'm using is not really designed for this purpose, so it's probably not the most efficient thing. So there was I felt it was a little bit on the cusp for keeping me warm from underneath. But yeah, so I think I'll, when I try this again, I think I'll just be mindful of, this is about as cold a temperature as I want to do with this setup. But yeah, it was pretty good. I'll definitely try it again. It was interesting, but yeah, definitely some challenges with finding spots in certain areas, I think, for the hammock. And so in some ways, tent's more versatile, which it's interesting. But yeah, so I got my coffee on, and I'm just gonna kick back. I think I've only got about half a day's walking from here, I think, to get to the end of this and to get to the nearest train station so I can get home. And yeah, we'll see how we go. I've not done the section of walk that we're going to do today, so that'll be interesting. Hopefully it's as good as what we did yesterday, because yesterday was really nice. So we're on our way. Pretty lazy start to the day because I'm not in a rush. You know, I've only got about 6 k's to cover, so you know, all the time in the world really. And it's heading along this trail's a little bit more overgrown than the last one, so maybe gets a little bit less traffic. But yeah, day one turned out to be really nice, so hoping that exploring this area turns out to be nice. Also, it's been a while since I've done a walk in the Blue Mountains. So I've been off everywhere else. So it's nice to be back in this part of the world. But yeah, so you know, I head down this spur, down to the creek again, and then probably along that for a little bit of an explore, and then back up the other side, and then hopefully we'll come out in the suburbs somewhere and just walk along the street for the last bit to the train station. So yeah, it's nice. Pretty hard to find walks that are readily accessible to public transport, so this one's actually been pretty good. So definitely feeling, you know, weighed down by the weight of all the spider webs I'm collecting on this section of the walk, but you know, been on a little bit of a gradual descent for a while now, so hopefully be reaching the end of this soon, and then it will be like a steep run down. A steep run down to the creek. Hopefully that, any luck, might be a little bit more open. But, yeah. Otherwise, yeah, it's just pleasant walking across the top here. Not too difficult. A little bit hemmed in by the bush, and so not too much to see. But you know, it's always just nice to be out here. It's a beautiful day. Nice to be out exploring. It's pretty unlikely, given we're midweek and this track, that we're going to see anyone. So that's pretty nice too. Helicopter noise not so nice. It's one of the downsides about hiking the Blue Mountains. So much air traffic noise. You know, I feel like it's more helicopters and stuff than they used to be. But yeah, I guess that's the times nowadays, isn't it? Yeah. All right, pay attention. I'm going to lose the track. This trail's actually pretty steep. Sometimes lines on a map don't do something justice. It's a bit vague in places. I definitely lost it for a few minutes there, but sort of back on what looks like a clearer line now. So yeah, so it's a bit of work, but yeah, it's cool. I mean, the view's opening up out in front of us. You know, obviously we're gonna have to climb that back out, which is, you know, always hurts, but you know, so we are on our way. It's pretty nice. Not a bad lunch spot. Yes, obviously down steep descent at the river. I'm going to sit on this rock here, have some lunch. I'm probably going to have a swim as well, might be nice. For the grind back up the other side, and then we're nearly done. So yeah, steep trail back up the other side of this and into the suburbs, and good to go. It's been an awesome trip so far. Really enjoyed it. It's been nice. So we've crossed the creek and now this is our way up. So we've just got this steep grind up here. So, and then we're back in civilization. So, I'm probably going to leave this one here. Thanks for tagging along on my first ever hammock camping trip. It was actually pretty cool to learn some new stuff. And it was also nice to explore some areas that, I probably wouldn't have looked at if I didn't have to come by public transport. So that's pretty cool too. So it's always nice to find new spots. Thanks for tagging along. Until next time, ciao.